Welcome back. You are with Newsday. We are returning now to one of our top stories today. A passenger plane carrying 132 people has crashed in mountains in southern China. The China Eastern Airlines Boeing 737-800 was travelling to Guangzhou when it lost height from its cruising altitude, plummeting to the ground in Guangxi province and catching fire. Let's bring in now Ron Bartsch, the former head of safety at Qantas and managing director of Avlaw Aviation Consulting. Ron, appreciate your time. We've all seen that terrifying image of the plane nose down, vertical as it plummets. What does that tell us about what could have gone wrong?
Well, unfortunately, it doesn't tell us too much at this stage, other than it was obviously a horrific accident, and there's obviously been some sort of catastrophic event that's happened to that aircraft. So until and unless we're able to access the flight data recorder or the black box, we're probably not going to know too much more about the accident.
Do we know much about the moments leading up to the crash, though?
It's very unusual in that this was owing a relatively short domestic flight of 2 hours, and the weather was clear and it was daylight, and the aircraft would have been in a state probably almost ready for top of descent. So it's not really a situation where there's a high workload on pilots. So there's a lot of things that we can certainly rule out that wouldn't have caused it, such as design, manufacture, or fatigue or whatever. So it seems that there's something being catastrophic happened, because otherwise they would have had a mayday call would have been released at the time.
So terrorism is one of those options that would be on the table worth investigating at this point?
Yeah, look, I'm not a security expert, but just on face value, a domestic flight within China, it has had a very good safety record, and it has got very good security aspects. So you wouldn't think that terrorism would have been the situation, and particularly when it was almost towards the end of the flight as well. But who knows? The situation is that it's completely different from the other Boeing MAX aircraft, because the 737-800 is so widely used, and particularly widely used in Australia. So we wouldn't think it's a design fault, and terrorism's got to be one of the plausible explanations, I guess.
Ron, just how long do you think it will take us to get answers? Just tell us a bit more about the process of retrieving the black box and what other items are we looking for that could shed some more light on what happened.
Sure. Okay. Well, the black box in lay terms is really an orange box, and it consists of two different devices. One is the voice recorder of the flight deck, and that will record the conversations that were occurring in the flight deck immediately prior to the incident. And the flight data recorder records all the parameters of height, speed, direction, and that sort of thing. So both of them together can give a very, very accurate picture of what happened. But the real problem we've got, if that footage is real, which we suspect it is, then whether or not that information will be contaminated or even available at all is I guess, highly unlikely at this stage. But we really need that data to be able to find out and determine what caused this horrific accident.
Ron, this is a really grim question, I realise this, but this is the sort of nightmare stuff for all of us who love getting on planes and travelling all around the world. When a plane crashes like that, is it likely those passengers on board, would they have been knocked out before that plummet began?
Look, it is a rather gruesome sort of scenario, but look, if the situation had been caused, for example, by lack of oxygen, and the passengers may have passed out and the crew may have passed out, perhaps that could be an explanation. But if not, unfortunately, it's a horrific scenario that, the people would still have been alive on board the aircraft during that catastrophic descent, and it's unthinkable.
It's just horrific. You mentioned that China Eastern Airlines has a pretty good safety record. Are you saying it doesn't have a big history of accidents, that this is one of the sort of more trusted airlines around the world?
Look, absolutely. China Eastern's got a very, very good safety record, and indeed they've been operating a fleet of over 100 of this type of aircraft. They've got over 600 aircraft in their fleet, so they've almost got some more 737-800s than what's available in Australia. So a very, very good safety culture and safety record. So it's not something that we were expecting on a domestic flight out of China. So it really makes us wonder. I know that the Chinese aviation regulatory authorities have grounded the aircraft. I guess that our local safety regulator, the Civil Aviation Safety Authority, will be watching developments very closely. As to whether we follow suit remains to be seen. But again, from my opinion, is that because this aircraft type is not in its infancy, it's nothing to do with the 737 MAX, which was basically a new type of aircraft. This is a tried and trusted aircraft, so we wouldn't expect that a design or a latent defect would manifest itself at this stage of its entry into service and its operation throughout the world.
Ron Bartsch, it is just devastating stuff. We appreciate you sharing your insights with us today. Thank you so much.
Not a problem. Thanks for having me.
And obviously our thoughts with all of the victims and their loved ones at such a tragic time.